I watched my family's black SUV disappear down Highway 50, the Nevada desert stretching endlessly in every direction. My brother Derek was behind the wheel, my sister Amanda laughing in the passenger seat, and my parents in the back. They had just told me this was a test to see if I could make it home to Ohio on my own with no money, no phone, and no resources. Derek shouted out the window, "Let's see if he can make it back." They thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I thought they would turn around in 5 minutes. They didn't. I stood in that gas station parking lot for 2 full hours, certain they would circle back any moment. The afternoon sun beat down relentlessly, and I kept scanning the horizon for their SUV. Each time a vehicle appeared in the distance, my heart would leap, only to sink again when it passed by without slowing. The gas station was a small, weathered building with 2 pumps and a faded sign that read Austin Fuel and Food. A woman behind the counter kept glancing at me through the window. After the 3rd hour passed, I finally walked inside, the air conditioning hitting me like a wall of relief. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her name tag read Patty. She looked to be in her 50s, with graying hair pulled back in a ponytail and kind eyes that held a hint of suspicion. "My family left me here," I said, realizing how absurd it sounded even as the words left my mouth. "I know that sounds crazy, but they just drove off. They said it was a test or a prank or something. I don't have my phone or my wallet. They took everything." Patty studied me for a long moment. "Where are you from?" "Columbus, Ohio. We were on a family road trip to California. We stopped here for gas, and then they just left me." Her expression softened slightly. "That's a long way from home. You got any ID?" I patted my pockets uselessly. "No. They took my wallet too. Everything was in the car." She frowned. "What's your name?" "Benito. Benito Rodriguez." "Well, Benito, I'm going to be honest with you. That's one heck of a story. You know how many people come through here with stories? This is Highway 50, the loneliest road in America. People make up all kinds of things. I'm not making it up," I said, hearing the desperation creep into my voice. "Please, can I just use your phone? I need to call someone." She hesitated, then slid the cordless phone across the counter. I picked it up and stared at the keypad, my mind going blank. I realized with growing horror that I didn't know a single phone number by heart. Everything had been saved in my phone. My friends, my coworkers, even my own parents' numbers were just names in a contact list that I no longer had access to. "I don't remember any numbers," I admitted, setting the phone down. Everything was in my phone. Patty's suspicion deepened. "You don't know anybody's number? Not one person? Who memorizes numbers anymore?" I shot back, frustration boiling over. "Everything's in your phone. When's the last time you actually dialed someone from memory?" She didn't answer, but I could see her point being made. It did sound suspicious. A man with no ID, no phone, no money, claiming his family abandoned him, who couldn't even produce a single phone number to verify his story. "Look," Patty said after a long pause, "I get off shift at 9. There's a break room in the back. You can stay there tonight, but just tonight. Tomorrow you need to figure something out. There's a sheriff's station about 40 miles east in Eureka. Maybe they can help you." "Thank you," I said, relief washing over me. "Thank you so much." The break room was barely larger than a closet, with a worn couch that smelled faintly of cigarettes and a small table covered in old magazines. I found a road atlas tucked between the cushions and opened it with trembling hands. Austin, Nevada. Population 192. I traced the route back to Ohio with my finger. Over 2,000 miles. It might as well have been the moon. As the sun set, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and purple, I lay on that couch trying to make sense of what had happened. My family had planned this. They didn't just spontaneously decide to abandon me. They chose this specific location, this specific stretch of highway, known for being the most isolated road in America. They took my phone, my wallet, everything I needed to survive or get help. Why? I thought back over the past few months. My brother Derek had always been competitive, always needed to prove he was better than me. My sister Amanda was manipulative, cruel in small ways that she could always disguise as jokes. My parents enabled them, laughed at their pranks, encouraged the family dynamic where I was always the target. But this was beyond anything they had done before. Around 10 o'clock, I heard Patty talking on the phone in the main store area. I crept closer to the door to listen. "Yeah, I let him stay in the break room," she was saying. I know. But what else was I supposed to do? His story is just so weird, though. Nobody gets abandoned like that. Real families don't do that kind of thing." A pause. "You think so?" "Yeah, maybe you're right. He could be running from something. Drugs, maybe. Or the law. I'm calling Sheriff Martinez in the morning if he's still here." My blood ran cold. I wasn't just stranded anymore. Now I was about to become a suspected criminal. I had no way to prove who I was, no way to verify my story, and a local sheriff who would likely see me as just another transient with a made-up tale. I waited until I heard Patty lock up and leave. Then I gathered the thin blanket she had given me and slipped out the back door into the desert night. The temperature had already dropped dramatically. The stars overhead were more numerous than I had ever seen, but their beauty was lost on me. I started walking east along Highway 50, toward whatever came next, knowing I had to keep moving before morning came, and Patty made that call. The desert at 4 in the morning is a strange, hostile place. The darkness is absolute except for the stars, and the silence is broken only by the crunch of my shoes on the shoulder of the highway. I walked for hours as the sky slowly lightened, revealing the stark landscape around me. Brown earth, scattered sagebrush, and mountains in the distance that never seemed to get any closer. By 10 in the morning, I had covered what I estimated to be 15 miles. My lips were cracked, my throat felt like sandpaper, and the sun was becoming unbearable. I heard the rumble of an engine behind me and turned to see a semi-truck approaching. Without thinking, I stuck out my thumb. The truck slowed and pulled onto the shoulder ahead of me. The driver's side window rolled down, revealing a man in his 60s with a gray beard and a baseball cap. "You look like you're in trouble," he called out. "You could say that," I replied, walking up to the cab. "Any chance you're heading east?" "Utah," he said. "Name's Carl. Hop in." I climbed into the cab, grateful beyond words. Carl handed me a bottle of water and a wrapped sandwich from a cooler behind the seats. I drank half the bottle in one long gulp. "Thank you," I managed. "You have no idea how much I needed this." "Long night?" Carl asked, pulling back onto the highway. "Long couple of days." I unwrapped the sandwich and took a bite. Turkey and cheese. It was the best thing I had ever tasted. As we drove, I told Carl the whole story. He listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making sympathetic sounds. He seemed genuinely concerned, asking questions that showed he was really paying attention. "That's rough," he said when I finished. "Family can be the worst sometimes. I've got a brother I haven't spoken to in 20 years. Some relationships just aren't worth keeping." We drove for 3 hours, covering a distance that would have taken me days to walk. Carl told me about his own life, his years on the road, the places he had seen. For those 3 hours, I felt almost normal again, almost safe. Then Carl pulled into a rest area, a small concrete building with bathrooms and a few picnic tables, surrounded by nothing but empty land. "Nature calls," Carl said, climbing out of the cab. "You can stretch your legs too. I need to check on the cargo real quick." I got out and walked around, feeling the stiffness in my legs from sitting. The rest area was completely empty. No other cars, no people, just us and the desert. I noticed a payphone near the bathrooms and walked over to it, but it had an out-of-order sign taped across the receiver. When Carl came back around the truck, something in his demeanor had changed. His friendly expression was gone, replaced by something cold and hard. "What were you doing?" he asked sharply. "Just looking at the phone," I said, confused by his sudden shift in tone. "It's broken anyway." "You were by my cargo door." "What?" "No, I was nowhere near your cargo." "I saw you," Carl said, his voice rising. "I saw you trying the handle." "Carl, I didn't touch your truck. I was over by the bathroom." "Get out," he said. "What?" "Get out of here. I don't pick up thieves. I should have known better. Nobody has a story like yours unless they're running from something." "Carl, please, I didn't do anything. You have to believe me." He pulled the water bottle from my hands and the remaining half of the sandwich. I'm reporting you to Highway Patrol. There's been a string of cargo thefts on this route, and you fit the description. Now get away from my truck before I make you." He was bigger than me, and the look in his eyes said he meant it. I backed away, hands raised, as he climbed into the cab. The engine roared to life, and I watched the truck pull away, leaving me standing alone in the rest area. But it was worse than that. As the truck disappeared, I looked around and realized where he had left me. This rest area was marked on a small wooden sign, "No services for 40 miles." The next town in either direction was too far to walk in a single day, especially without water. Carl had deliberately chosen this spot. He knew exactly what he was doing. I sank down onto one of the concrete picnic tables, the weight of my situation crushing down on me. I had been abandoned twice now, in less than 48 hours. The desert stretched out in every direction, and the sun was past its peak, meaning I had maybe 6 hours of daylight left. The temperature would drop to near freezing after dark, and I had nothing. No water, no food, no shelter. I noticed a small maintenance shed near the bathrooms. The door had a padlock, but when I tugged on it, the whole latch pulled away from the rotted wood. Inside, I found old blankets that smelled like mildew, some tools, and a few bottles of cleaning supplies. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. That night, I huddled in the maintenance shed wrapped in the musty blankets, listening to the wind howl across the desert. I thought about Carl, about how he had seemed so kind at first. Had he planned this from the beginning? Or had something I said or did triggered his suspicion? Either way, I was now facing a second false accusation. First, Patty thought I was a criminal. Now Carl would report me as a thief. I was leaving a trail of suspicion wherever I went, and I had no way to defend myself. The morning sun woke me, streaming through the cracks in the maintenance shed. Every muscle in my body ached. I drank water from the bathroom faucet, cupping my hands and drinking until my stomach hurt. Then I started walking east again. 8 miles later, legs burning and head pounding from dehydration despite the water I had drunk, I heard an engine behind me. An RV, cream-colored with brown stripes, slowed as it approached. The passenger window rolled down. "You need help?" called a woman's voice. I turned to see a family, a man driving, the woman in the passenger seat, and a teenage girl visible in the back. They looked clean-cut, wholesome, the kind of family you would see in a vacation commercial. "Yes," I said, not even bothering to hide my desperation. "Please." The side door opened, and the man said, "Come on up. I'm Frank. This is my wife Claire and our daughter Zoe." I climbed into the RV, and Claire immediately handed me a bottle of water and a granola bar. "You look awful," she said, not unkindly. "What happened to you?" Once again, I told my story. Frank listened while driving, occasionally glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Claire asked questions, specific ones about my family, their names, where we lived in Columbus, what street, what part of town. At the time, I thought she was just being thorough, wanting to understand the situation. I answered everything honestly. "That's terrible," Claire said when I finished. "What kind of family does that?" "Mine, apparently," I said bitterly. "We're heading to Ely," Frank said. "It's the next real town, about 30 miles from here. Has a police station, services, everything you need. We'll take you there and help you file a report." "Thank you," I said, feeling genuine gratitude. "I can't tell you how much this means." Zoe, who looked about 16, offered me a sandwich from their cooler. "My parents always help people," she said. "Last year we picked up a family whose car broke down and drove them all the way to Reno. The drive to Ely took about 40 minutes. The town appeared like an oasis after the endless desert, with real streets, buildings, and people." Frank drove directly to the police station, a low brick building with a flag out front. "Come on," he said, parking the RV. "We'll go in with you and back up your story." The police station was cool and quiet. A sergeant sat at the front desk, a nameplate reading Sergeant Hayes in front of him. He was in his 50s, with a military-style haircut and a no-nonsense expression. "Can I help you folks?" he asked. "This young man has been abandoned by his family," Frank said, gesturing to me. "We found him walking along Highway 50. He needs to file a report." Sergeant Hayes looked me over, his expression unreadable. "That's so? Let's hear it then." I told the story again, my voice getting tired from repeating it so many times. Sergeant Hayes took notes, asking for details about the gas station in Austin, the timeline, my family's vehicle and license plate number. "And you have no identification?" he asked. "No, sir. They took everything." "Excuse me a moment," Frank said, standing up. "Sergeant, can I speak with you privately?" Sergeant Hayes nodded, and they stepped into an adjacent office. I could see them through the glass window, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. Frank was gesturing, looking serious. The sergeant's expression grew more stern as he listened. When they came back out, Sergeant Hayes's entire demeanor had changed. "Son, I need you to come with me to an interview room." "What? Why?" "Just need to ask you some more questions. Privately." Claire and Frank exchanged a look. Zoe was staring at her phone, not making eye contact with me anymore. The interview room was small and gray, with a table and 2 chairs. Sergeant Hayes sat across from me, a folder in his hands. "Let me tell you what I know," he said, his voice flat. "I've got a report from a truck driver named Carl saying you tried to rob his cargo 2 days ago. Now I've got Frank Henderson, a respected businessman in this county, telling me your story keeps changing and that you tried to take items from his RV. He also mentioned that you made his daughter uncomfortable with inappropriate comments." "What? That's not true. None of that is true." "Frank says you kept staring at his daughter and asking her questions about where she goes to school, where she lives. I never said anything to her. She gave me a sandwich. That was the only interaction we had. And the theft from the RV, I didn't take anything. Check my pockets. Search me. I have nothing." Sergeant Hayes leaned back in his chair. "Here's my problem. I've got 2 separate reports of theft, or attempted theft involving you. I've got no way to verify who you are. And your story about family abandonment is pretty far-fetched. On top of that, you match the general description of someone we're looking for in connection with a robbery 3 counties over. White male, late 20s, dark hair, about 6 feet tall. That could describe thousands of people. Could. But right now, you're the one sitting in my interview room with multiple complaints against you and no ID. Call the police in Columbus. They can verify my identity." "Oh, I will. But that takes time. In the meantime, I'm holding you for questioning." "You're arresting me?" "Not formally. But I am detaining you overnight while we look into things. You'll have access to a public defender in the morning." I was taken to a holding cell, a small concrete room with a metal bench and a toilet in the corner. There was one other person in the cell, a man in his 40s with tattoos covering his arms. He looked up when I entered. "First time?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, sitting on the far end of the bench. "What are you in for?" "I'm not sure. They're accusing me of things I didn't do." He laughed. "Everyone in here is innocent. I'm Marcus, by the way. Benito. Let me give you some advice, Benito. Don't talk to Hayes without a lawyer. He's got a reputation. He pressures people into confessing to things just to clear his cases. Had a friend who spent 6 months in county lockup because Hayes convinced him to sign a confession for a burglary he didn't commit. How do I get a lawyer? They'll assign you a public defender tomorrow. Until then, keep your mouth shut." I spent that night on the metal bench, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had spiraled so completely out of control. 5 days ago, I had been on a family vacation. Now I was in a jail cell, facing accusations of crimes I hadn't committed, with no way to prove my innocence. My family's prank had turned into a nightmare that kept getting worse with every step I took. 3 days passed in that cell. Sergeant Hayes came by twice a day, trying to get me to just explain what really happened. Each time, I refused to speak without a lawyer present. Marcus, who was still in the cell with me, coached me through it, reminding me that anything I said would be twisted. On the 4th day, a woman in a wrinkled suit appeared outside the cell. "Benito Rodriguez? I'm Sharon Winters, your public defender." We were taken to a small meeting room. Sharon looked exhausted, carrying a stack of files that suggested I was just one of many cases she was handling. "Tell me everything," she said, pulling out a legal pad. I went through the story once more. To her credit, Sharon listened without judgment, taking detailed notes. "Okay," she said when I finished. "First thing, I'm running a background check. If you are who you say you are, That should clear some things up. 2 hours later, she returned with better news. You're in the system. Ohio DMV has your driver's license. Current address in Columbus. Clean record except for one speeding ticket 3 years ago. You are exactly who you say you are. Relief flooded through me. So I can go? Not quite that simple. I've reviewed the complaints against you. The truck driver's statement is vague. No actual evidence of theft or attempted theft. Frank Henderson's statement is more problematic. He claims you took a jacket from his RV and made inappropriate comments to his daughter. However, he has no proof of the jacket, and his daughter didn't make a statement herself. Sergeant Hayes has been trying to connect you to that robbery in Elko County, but you don't actually match the real description. Wrong eye color, wrong build, wrong everything except gender and approximate age. So there's no real evidence of anything. Correct. Which is why I'm getting you released today. Hayes doesn't have enough to hold you, and he knows it. But, she paused, he's not happy about it. He's the type who doesn't like being wrong, and he doesn't like admitting he wasted resources. Be careful around him. Later that afternoon, I walked out of the police station with Marcus beside me. His charges for trespassing had also been dropped. Thanks for the advice in there, I said. No problem. Where are you headed now? I have no idea. Marcus studied me for a moment. Look, I've been on the streets for 3 years. Got kicked out of my parents' house when I came out as gay. They're evangelical. Couldn't handle having a gay son. I know how to survive out here. I know where to find food, shelter, work. You helped me stay sane in that cell, talking to me like a person instead of trash. Let me help you. I don't want to be a burden. You're not. Besides, it's good to have company. The street's lonely. There's a shelter in Salt Lake City about 3 hours north. They're good people, they don't ask too many questions, and they can help you figure out your next steps. I've got enough money from some day labor last week to get us bus tickets. What do you say? I didn't have a better option. Okay. Thank you. We hitchhiked out of Ely that evening, catching a ride with an elderly couple who took us as far as the Utah border. From there, another ride in the back of a pickup truck brought us to the outskirts of Salt Lake City by nightfall. The shelter's downtown, Marcus said as we walked through increasingly urban streets. But first, I want to stop by a place where some friends of mine crash. They might have clothes that fit you better. Maybe a coat. It gets cold at night. We turned down a side street lined with boarded-up buildings. Marcus led me to one that looked abandoned, but when we went around back, I could see light coming from the windows. This is it, he said, knocking in a specific pattern. A man opened the door. He was in his 30s, muscular, with prison tattoos visible on his neck. Marcus. Been a while. Hey, Travis. This is Benito. He's had a rough week. Thought you might be able to spare some supplies. Travis looked me over with cold eyes. Sure. Come in. Inside, the building was set up like a squat. Sleeping bags and mattresses scattered across the floor. A camping stove in the corner. Clothes hanging from makeshift lines. About 6 other people were there, all looking worn down by hard living. Help yourself to whatever's in the donation pile, Travis said, gesturing to a corner stacked with boxes. But remember, nothing's free in this world. I found a jacket that fit and a backpack that wasn't too damaged. Marcus grabbed a few canned goods and stuffed them in the pack. That night, we slept in the building along with the others. I was exhausted enough that I didn't question whether it was safe. I just collapsed onto an empty mattress and let sleep take me. I woke hours later to voices arguing. Marcus and Travis were standing near the door, keeping their voices low but intense. He's not like the others, Marcus was saying. He actually has a life to get back to. A real job, a real home. This is temporary for him. Everyone who comes through here owes rent, Travis replied. Doesn't matter who they are. You know the rules. He's got nothing to give you. Then he can work for it. I've got a job at the grocery store on 5th. Easy grab and dash. He does it, we're square. You know he won't do that. Then he shouldn't have accepted our hospitality. I sat up quietly, realizing I was the subject of their argument. Travis noticed me and walked over. Good, you're awake. Here's the deal. You stayed here, used our resources. That means you owe. There's a grocery store about 4 blocks from here. Tomorrow morning, early, you walk in, fill a bag with high-value items, and walk out. They never chase. I've got people who buy the stuff. You do this one job, and we're even. I'm not stealing for you, I said. Then I'm calling the cops and telling them you broke in here and attacked me. I've got 6 witnesses who will back me up. You'll be back in a cell, except this time it'll be with real charges. Marcus stepped between us. Travis, come on. There's got to be another way. There isn't. He pays the rent, or he pays the consequences. You've got until morning to decide. Travis walked away, and Marcus sat beside me on the mattress. We need to leave, he whispered. Tonight. Travis isn't bluffing. He's done this before. If you refuse, he'll make good on his threat, and his friends will back up whatever story he tells. What about you? Won't he come after you too? I can handle Travis. I've known him a long time, but you need to get out of here. We waited until everyone seemed to be asleep, then quietly gathered our things. We made it to the back door without incident, but as I pulled it open, it creaked loudly. Travis's voice called out from across the room. Going somewhere? We ran. Out into the alley. Down the street. Not looking back. Behind us, I could hear Travis shouting, "You're going to regret this. Both of you. I'll make sure of it." We ran for 6 blocks before ducking into a 24-hour diner. The waitress looked at us suspiciously but didn't say anything when Marcus ordered 2 coffees with what little money he had left. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, his hands shaking slightly around his coffee cup. "I thought Travis would be cool. I didn't know he'd try to force you into that. It's not your fault. You've been the only person who's actually tried to help me. We need a new plan. Salt Lake's not safe now. Travis has connections all over this area. We need to get out of the city." "Where?" "East. Maybe Denver. It's bigger, more resources, easier to disappear if we need to, but it'll take money to get there." For the next 2 weeks, we survived through day labor. We found a community board at a hardware store, where contractors posted jobs for cash workers, construction cleanup, demolition, loading trucks. The work was hard and the pay was barely enough for food, but slowly we saved. Marcus taught me how to live on the street, which public restrooms were safe, which parks didn't hassle people for sleeping, which restaurants threw out good food at closing time, which libraries let you stay all day without asking questions. He had survived 3 years this way, and he shared every trick he knew. We became friends. Real friends. He told me about his family, about being thrown out at 19 for being gay, about the boyfriend he lost to an overdose, about the dreams he used to have before survival became his only goal. I told him about my family, about always being the target, about Derek and Amanda's cruelty disguised as jokes, about parents who never protected me. "You're better off without them," Marcus said one night as we sat in a park watching the sunset. "Real family doesn't treat you like that. Real family shows up when you need them." After 2 weeks, we had saved enough for a single bus ticket to Denver. Just one. "You take it," Marcus said. "No. We both go, or neither of us goes. Benito, listen to me. You have a life to get back to. A job. A home. People who will miss you eventually. I don't. This is my life now. I've accepted that. But you don't have to accept it. Take the ticket. Get to Denver. The shelter there is called Hope's Haven. They're the best in the state. They'll help you get back on your feet. And once you do, once you're stable, if you want to come back for me, I'll be here. Marcus, take the ticket, please. Let one of us have a chance at something better." The next morning, we went to the bus station. I bought the ticket to Denver with Marcus standing beside me, insisting it was the right choice. We had an hour before the bus left, so we sat on a bench outside, talking about what I would do when I got there, how I would rebuild. Then a man approached us. He was middle-aged, wearing khakis and a polo shirt, looking out of place at the bus station. "Excuse me," he said, looking directly at me. "Are you the guy from Ohio?" My blood went cold. "Who's asking?" He pulled out a piece of paper and showed it to me. It was a missing person poster with my photo on it, my family's names and contact information at the bottom. The poster was dated 11 months ago. "I'm Gary. I'm a private investigator. Your family hired me to find you about 6 months after you went missing. They stopped paying after 3 months, but I kept the case open. I like to finish what I start. Can we talk?" We sat at a coffee shop across from the bus station. Marcus beside me and Gary across the table with a folder full of documents. Your family reported you missing 3 weeks after the abandonment, Gary said, spreading papers across the table. But look at the description they gave. I read the missing person report. It described me as having mental health issues, being potentially a danger to myself, and having a history of running away during episodes. None of it was true. They made me sound unstable, I said. Exactly. They crafted a narrative that if you did show up somewhere, you'd be dismissed as unreliable. Smart on their part. Cruel, but smart. Gary pulled out more papers. Photos printed from social media. My brother Derek at his wedding, smiling in a tuxedo. The date was 4 months after I was abandoned. My sister Amanda at a graduation ceremony, holding a diploma. 6 months after. My parents at a restaurant, celebrating their anniversary. 8 months after. They never stopped their lives, I said, staring at the images. They just erased me from them. It gets worse, Gary said quietly. He showed me a screenshot of a social media post from Derek, dated 2 months after the abandonment. The text read, "Remember that family prank that went too far? Benny probably learned his lesson by now and is hiding out of embarrassment. Come home, bro. We miss you." Followed by a laughing emoji. The post had 342 likes and dozens of comments, all laughing along. "They turned it into entertainment," Marcus said, reading over my shoulder. "They made you a joke." "Did they actually hire you to find me?" I asked Gary. "They did. Your mother called me, crying, saying her son was missing, and they were desperate. I took the case. I tracked you as far as Ely before the trail went cold. When I called to update them, your father seemed annoyed that I hadn't found you yet. Your mother asked how much longer it would take. When I said it could be months, they stopped returning my calls. Stopped paying my retainer. That was 3 months ago. Why are you still looking? Because something didn't sit right. The way they talked about you, the missing person report that painted you as unstable, the social media post joking about it. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know the difference between a family desperate to find someone and a family covering their tracks. So I kept digging. Stayed in touch with law enforcement along Highway 50. When your name popped up in Ely last week, I came to investigate. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. I want to give you something. Information. Your family is preparing to move. Your father got a new job in Seattle. They're selling the house in Columbus. If you're ever going to confront them, now's the time. But I'll be honest with you, Benito. I don't think you should. I think you should take this bus ticket, go to Denver, and never look back. These people don't deserve your energy. He slid a business card across the table. If you change your mind, call me. I'll help however I can. After Gary left, Marcus and I sat in silence for a long time. He's right, Marcus finally said. They don't deserve you going back. I know. I couldn't finish the sentence. Part of me still wanted them to care, to apologize, to acknowledge what they'd done. But the evidence was clear. They didn't care. They had made me into a story they told at parties. We left the coffee shop and headed back toward the bus station. That's when I saw him. Travis, standing across the street with 2 other men, scanning the crowd. He hadn't seen us yet. Run, Marcus whispered. We ducked into an alley and ran, weaving through back streets. Behind us, I could hear shouting. Travis had spotted us. We ran for blocks, finally hiding in a construction site behind a dumpster. We waited there for an hour, listening to Travis and his friends search the area, before they finally gave up and left. We can't stay in Salt Lake, Marcus said. And we can't wait for another bus. Travis will find us. The ticket's for 1 person anyway. And I'm not leaving you behind. Then we both go. There's gotta be a way. We waited until dark, then made our way back to the bus station. The bus to Denver was scheduled to leave in 30 minutes. We watched from across the street as passengers loaded. The bathroom, Marcus said suddenly. Get on with your ticket. Go straight to the bathroom in the back of the bus. I'll wait until the driver isn't looking and slip on. I'll hide in the bathroom until we're on the highway. That's risky. You have a better idea? I didn't. We waited until most passengers were boarded. Then I walked across the street and got on the bus with my ticket. The driver barely glanced at me. I went straight to the bathroom in the back, squeezed inside, and left the door unlocked. 5 minutes later, just as the driver was about to close the doors, Marcus slipped on and practically fell into the bathroom with me. We stayed cramped in that tiny space for the first hour of the drive until we were well outside Salt Lake City. Then Marcus crept out and found an empty seat in the back, while I took another a few rows up. We pretended not to know each other, just two passengers on a bus heading east. Denver appeared just before dawn, the city lights glowing against the dark sky. We got off at the main station and found ourselves in a real city for the first time in weeks. Buildings, traffic, people everywhere. Hope's Haven is in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, Marcus said, looking at a bus map. We can walk it in about 40 minutes. The shelter was in a converted church, a beautiful old building with stained glass windows, and a sign outside that read, "All are welcome." We went inside and were greeted by a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Hello," she said. "I'm Helen. Are you looking for services?" "Yes," I said. "We need help." Helen didn't ask questions, didn't judge. She showed us to a room with bunk beds, gave us vouchers for the meal service, and told us that in the morning we could meet with a caseworker to discuss options. That night, sleeping in a real bed for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt since before the abandonment. Hope. Maybe Gary was right. Maybe the path forward wasn't confronting my family. Maybe it was building something new, something better, without them. The next 3 months in Denver were transformative. Helen connected me with a workforce development program that provided temporary housing and job training. I was placed in a warehouse position, starting at the bottom, but with room to advance. Marcus was enrolled in a similar program and got a job at a restaurant. We lived in a group home with 6 other men, all working to rebuild their lives. We had structure, stability, and most importantly, purpose. I worked hard, showing up early and staying late. My supervisor noticed and started giving me more responsibilities. For the first time since the abandonment, I felt like a person again, not just a survivor. Marcus and I stayed close. We'd meet for dinner on our days off, go to free concerts in the park, talk about the future like it was something that actually existed. He was saving money to get his own apartment. I was doing the same. Then one Tuesday afternoon, 4 months after arriving in Denver, my supervisor called me to the front office. "Someone's here asking for you," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Says she's your sister." My stomach dropped. "My sister?" "Yeah. She's pretty upset. Says your family's been looking for you for months. I'll give you some privacy." Amanda was standing in the lobby, looking exactly like I remembered. Perfectly styled hair, expensive clothes, makeup carefully applied. When she saw me, her face crumpled and tears started flowing. "Benito," she sobbed, rushing toward me. "Oh my God, we've been so worried." I stepped back, keeping distance between us. "What are you doing here?" "Looking for you. We've been searching everywhere. When you disappeared from that gas station, we drove back, and you were gone. We've had private investigators, police in 5 states, everything. Mom's been sick with worry. She's in the hospital right now. Heart problems. The stress of losing you has been killing her." "Stop," I said. "Just stop." "Stop what?" "Benito, we're your family. We love you. We made a mistake, okay? The prank went too far. We admit that. But we came back for you and you were gone. Where have you been?" "You know exactly where I've been," Gary told you. "He found me in Salt Lake." Her expression flickered, just for a second. The mask slipped. Then she recovered, tears flowing again. "We just found out last week. Gary told us you were in Denver. Please, you have to come home. Mom needs to see you. The doctors say her heart is failing. She needs to know you're okay." "Show me your phone," I said. "What?" "Your phone. Show me the calls you've made trying to reach me." She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. The call log showed 91 missed calls to my old number over the past 3 days. Not months. Days. Since Gary told them where I was. "You haven't been looking for me," I said. "You've been living your life. Derek's wedding, your graduation, family dinners. I've seen the photos. That's not fair. We were trying to maintain normalcy while searching for you." By posting jokes about it on social media? Another flicker. She knew I had seen Derek's post. That was Derek being stupid. He took it down. After how long? She didn't answer. At that moment, Marcus walked into the lobby, probably on his break. He saw Amanda and immediately sensed the tension. "Everything okay?" he asked, positioning himself near me. Amanda looked Marcus up and down with barely concealed disgust. "Who's this?" "A friend," I said. "You're hanging around with people like that now?" She didn't bother to lower her voice. "Benito, this is exactly why you need to come home. Look at what you've become. You're working in a warehouse, living in some shelter, associating with. Say it," Marcus said quietly. "We both know what you want to say." "I think you should leave," I told Amanda. "Not until you agree to come home. Mom's dying, Benito. Are you really going to let her die without seeing you? Why do you need me to come home?" "The real reason. I just told you. The real reason, Amanda." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, deciding whether to keep up the act or show her true hand. Finally, she made her choice. "Fine. You want the truth? Your former employer in Columbus is suing the family. You were on a management development track, remember? They had invested training money in you. When you disappeared, they claimed breach of contract. They're coming after Mom and Dad for the costs. We need you to sign a statement saying you left voluntarily, that it was your choice to abandon the position. That releases the family from liability." There it was. The truth. They didn't miss me. They didn't want me back. They needed me to save them from the consequences of their own actions. "No," I said simply. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I'm not signing anything. I'm not coming back. I'm not saving you from a lawsuit you deserve." Her tears dried up instantly. The sweet, concerned sister vanished, replaced by the person I actually knew. "You're making a huge mistake," she said coldly. "We know where you work now. We know about your little shelter. We can make your life very difficult, Benito. We have resources, lawyers, money. We can destroy everything you've built here. Try it," Marcus said. "Please try it. Give us a reason to fight back." Amanda looked between us, clearly not expecting resistance. "You have 24 hours to decide. Come home and sign the papers, or we make this ugly." She turned and walked out, her heels clicking on the tile floor. I stood there shaking, adrenaline coursing through me. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" "No, but I will be. I need to talk to Helen." Helen listened to everything, taking notes, her expression growing more serious by the minute. "This is worse than I thought," she said when I finished. "But you're not defenseless. Let me make some calls." 2 hours later, I was sitting in the office of a legal aid attorney named Paul Greenfield. He specialized in family law and exploitation cases. "Tell me everything," he said. "Start from the beginning, and don't leave anything out." I told him the entire story. The abandonment in Nevada, Patty in the gas station, Carl in the truck, Frank in the false accusations, the jail in Ely, Travis in Salt Lake, Gary the investigator, and finally Amanda's visit today. Paul listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is one of the most clear-cut cases of intentional infliction of emotional distress I've seen, possibly criminal abandonment depending on Nevada state law. And now they're trying to coerce you into signing a false statement to avoid their own legal liability. That's fraud, possibly extortion. What can I do? Fight back. We document everything. I'll contact Gary, get his full report. I'll get statements from Patty, from Sergeant Hayes about the false accusations that stemmed from your abandonment. We build a timeline showing exactly what your family did and the consequences it had. Then we go on offense. I don't have money for a lawyer. You don't need it. I work for legal aid. Besides, once we present what we have, your family's attorney will advise them to settle immediately. Nobody wants this going to trial. The optics are terrible for them. What about the lawsuit from my employer? That's civil court. Different matter. But your testimony about being abandoned and unable to return to work would likely be compelling. You might even have a case against your family for damages resulting from lost employment." Over the next 2 days, Paul worked fast. He contacted Gary, who immediately sent over his entire case file. He tracked down Patty in Austin, Nevada, who confirmed my story and said she'd testify if needed. He got incident reports from Ely, showing the false accusations that had kept me in jail. He documented everything. Then he called Amanda and requested a meeting with the family and their attorney. The meeting was held in a conference room at Paul's legal aid office. My entire family showed up. My father, Richard, looking uncomfortable in a suit. My mother, Susan, who did not appear sick or dying as Amanda had claimed. Derek, wearing a smirk that disappeared when he saw me looking healthier than he expected. And Amanda, her expression cold and calculating. Their attorney was a man named Donald Pierce. Expensive suit and briefcase. The kind of lawyer who was used to intimidating people. "Let's make this quick," Donald said. "Our position is simple. Benito abandoned his employment voluntarily. We have witnesses to family conflicts that precipitated his departure. He needs to sign a statement to that effect, and we can all move forward." Paul smiled. "Let me show you what we have." He laid out the timeline. Gas station receipts from Austin, Nevada, Patty's sworn statement, Carl's location data from his truck logs showing he picked up a hitchhiker matching my description, jail records from Ely, Gary's complete investigative report, Derek's social media post joking about the prank that went too far, credit card statements showing my family's transactions continuing normally in California, Nevada, and back home to Ohio while I was stranded. Financial records showing they collected over $12,000 in donations from their church community for search efforts that they never actually conducted, spending the money on personal expenses instead. "That last part is fraud," Paul said calmly. "Criminal fraud. The church has already been contacted and they're considering pressing charges. Now, let me show you what else we have." He pulled out more documents. Medical records from the shelter documenting my condition when I arrived. Malnutrition, dehydration, psychological trauma. Witness statements from Marcus and Helen. Employment records showing my excellent performance at the warehouse, despite everything I'd been through. And finally, a draft lawsuit for intentional infliction of emotional distress, criminal abandonment, and fraud. Donald Pierce's confident expression had evaporated. He leaned over to my father, and they had a whispered conversation. My mother had tears in her eyes, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of fear about what this would cost them. Derek looked angry. Amanda looked calculating, probably already working on a new angle. "What do you want?" Donald finally asked. "Simple," Paul said. "You sign an agreement never to contact Benito again. You reimburse the church for the fraudulent donations. You provide a written apology acknowledging what you did. And you release any and all claims related to his former employment, providing a statement to his former employer that he was unable to return to work due to family circumstances beyond his control." "That's absurd," Donald said. "The employment claim alone will cost them." "Less than this lawsuit will," Paul interrupted, "and far less than the criminal charges for fraud. Your clients collected money under false pretenses. That's a felony. I have documentation of every dollar donated and every dollar spent on non-search related expenses. Restaurant bills, shopping trips, entertainment. All while Benito was literally fighting to survive in the desert." My father stood up suddenly. "This is ridiculous. He's our son. We don't need some legal agreement about contact. This is family business." "Sit down, Richard," Donald said quietly. "They have you. We were teaching him a lesson. He needed to toughen up, learn responsibility. He was always weak, always needing help." "Richard," Donald said more firmly, "sit down and be quiet." My mother spoke for the first time. "Benito, please. We're your family. Don't do this to us." "You did this," I said, speaking for the first time since the meeting started. "Every single consequence you're facing right now, you earned. You left me in the desert with nothing. You lied to your church. You turned my suffering into a joke for social media. You only came looking for me when you needed something. That's not family. That's cruelty." "We made a mistake," Susan said. "People make mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting someone's birthday. This was calculated. You planned it. You chose the most isolated highway in America. You took my phone, my wallet, everything. You knew exactly what you were doing." Derek finally spoke. "So what? You're going to destroy the family over this? Mom and Dad could lose everything. They should, I said. Maybe then they'll understand what it feels like to have nothing. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Donald spoke to my family quietly. I'm advising you to accept these terms. If this goes to court, you'll lose, and it will cost substantially more. The fraud charges alone are serious. Sign the agreement. My father looked like he wanted to argue, but Donald's expression left no room for debate. One by one, they signed the documents Paul had prepared. The agreement was clear and binding. No contact ever again. Full reimbursement to the church. A written apology that would be filed with the court, and a statement releasing me from any employment liability. I didn't take their money beyond the church reimbursement. I didn't want anything from them. I wanted them out of my life forever. As they left the conference room, Amanda stopped at the door and looked back at me. You're going to regret this, she said quietly. No, I replied. I really won't. After they were gone, Paul handed me copies of all the signed documents. It's over. They can't touch you now. Thank you, I said, for everything. You did the hard part. You survived. You rebuilt. You fought back. That takes strength most people don't have. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in over a year. Marcus was waiting outside, having taken the afternoon off work to be there for moral support. How'd it go? He asked. It's done. They're gone. Forever. Good. Now what? Now we live. And that's exactly what we did. I stayed in Denver, kept working at the warehouse, got promoted twice in the following year. I saved enough money to get my own apartment. Marcus and I stayed close, meeting for dinner every week. Two brothers, not by blood but by choice and circumstance. I started dating someone I met through work, a woman named Sarah, who listened to my whole story and didn't run away. She understood trauma. She understood rebuilding. We took things slow. The church in Columbus contacted me after receiving the reimbursement. They apologized for not seeing through my family's deception and offered to help if I ever needed anything. I thanked them, but explained I had found my own way. Gary, the private investigator, checked in every few months. He said he'd never seen someone turn their life around so completely after such a devastating betrayal. He started referring other people to Hope's Haven when he encountered them in his work. 12 years have passed since that day in the Nevada desert. I'm 38 now, assistant manager at the warehouse, married to Sarah, with a daughter named Grace. Marcus is my daughter's godfather. He has his own apartment, a steady job, and recently started dating someone he really likes. I never responded to those 91 missed calls from my family. Not a single one. They tried reaching out a few more times over the years, always when they needed something, never to apologize or make amends. Each time, I deleted the messages without listening. People ask me sometimes if I'll ever forgive them. The answer is no, and I'm at peace with that. Forgiveness isn't required for healing. I healed by building something new, something better, with people who actually showed up for me when it mattered. The lesson I learned in that desert, in those desperate months of survival, is this. Family isn't defined by blood or shared last names. Family is defined by who stands beside you when you have nothing, who believes in you when you can't believe in yourself, who fights for you when you're too tired to fight. Marcus is my family. Helen is my family. Sarah and Grace are my family. The people I worked with at the warehouse who gave me a chance are my family. The people who left me in the desert? They're strangers who happen to share my DNA, and I'm better off without them. I look at my daughter sometimes, this perfect little person who depends on me, and I make a promise to her every single day. I will never abandon you. I will never make you prove your worth. I will never treat your pain as entertainment. I will be the father I needed and never had. I will be the family that shows up. That gas station in Austin, Nevada is still there. I know because I drove past it a few years ago, on a road trip with Sarah. We stopped for gas, and Patty was still working the counter. She recognized me immediately. "You're that kid," she said. "The one whose family left him." "Yeah," I said. "That was me." "You look good. Really good." "Happy." "I am. I'm sorry I didn't believe you at first. I should have helped more." "You helped enough. You let me stay that first night." That mattered. She smiled. Where are you headed? California. With my wife. Just taking the scenic route. Well, you drive safe. As we pulled away from that gas station, Sarah asked me how it felt to be back there. Like closing a chapter, I said. Like proving that they didn't break me. Because that's the real victory. Not the legal documents or the forced apology. The victory is that I survived, I rebuilt, and I thrived. I turned the worst thing that ever happened to me into the catalyst for building a better life with better people. They tried to break me, and instead they freed me. So here's what I want you to think about. Who are the people in your life who actually show up? Who are the ones who stand beside you when you have nothing to offer them except your presence? Those are your people. Those are your family. Blood doesn't create obligation. Love and loyalty do. And if you're going through something right now, if you feel abandoned or betrayed or lost, I want you to know this. You're stronger than you think. You can survive things you never imagined surviving. You can rebuild from nothing. You can create a family from people who choose you. It won't be easy, but it's possible. I'm living proof. Have you ever had to cut ties with family members who were toxic? How did you rebuild afterward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming adversity. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they can survive anything. And remember, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so good that the people who hurt you become irrelevant. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who's fighting their own battle. Stay strong, keep building, and never let anyone convince you that you're not worth fighting for. You are. And the right people will prove it to you. Take care of yourselves out there. You're worth it.